Hello everyone, my name is Ross the Alcheminiaturist, and this is a Space Marine video, unlike you've ever seen before. In light of the old Space Marine models going on the, quote, last chance to buy, unquote, list, I thought it was high time that I showed myself building a Space Marine model. Now this model, as you may already have seen, is from the Space Marine Heroes line. It's a lovely little line of about 6 different models, all packaged individually in blind boxes to get you, the consumer, to spend more of your money to get all 6. Because let's face it, who amongst us likes to have incomplete sets of things? I know I don't. It drives me bonkers. But the problem I have had for a long time is that I do only have this one box, so I only get one shot at getting a model that I'd like. I'm gonna level with you. While I'm building this, I'm reminded on how much I don't actually like building Space Marines. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with them. They just kind of annoy me. They're like that one kid whose father is a CEO and he thinks that he owns the playground at school, but the only thing that's different about him than others is his ability to loudly complain to the teachers that people aren't following his rules. I'm looking at you, Gilliman. I've never been truly fond of the good guys in any scenario. They're either too good, or their flaws are just swept under the rug and buried under, look how good I can do X. However, like I've stated previously, I don't mind one bit how you want to collect and or play your hobby, as long as you're not being an over-the-top jerk about it. They're plastic or resin toys at the end of the day, and who honestly feels good about policing somebody else's toys? There are exceptions to this, but anyone with a shred of common sense can figure those out and wouldn't do that anyway. Warhammer is supposed to be fun. Fun for you, fun for me, fun for everyone. It's supposed to include, not exclude. Bring together, not divide. Warhammer is for everyone. Well, I'm an everyone, and I recently wanted to collect a couple Space Marines, mostly just so that I can say that I have, and that I know what I'm missing out on. Games Workshop has a bad habit of hitting us with the FOMO at a frequency of what feels like every week or two. That's way too much, to be honest, for anyone. I don't want the updates, new models, range refreshes, and etc. to stop. I just want the false sense of the feeling of scarcity to stop. The only thing it does, in my opinion, is drive more people into scalping, recasting, or 3D printing models than may have been tempted or chose to go those routes if scarcity was not there. They literally control the quantity and supply. Limited quantity doesn't have to exist if they choose for it to not. That's another thing. Scarcity. We're making something scarce and limited because you can. Why? What good does it do in the long run? You have the resources to be able to provide everything that is needed. Purposefully clipping your own wings does nothing but not let you fly as well. Maybe one day we will see Games Workshop not make these things as scarce, and on that day, I will rejoice on the street thanking them publicly. But until then, I will limit my day one purchasing and do my part in hopefully slowing down the FOMO tide. But Space Marines. What is a Space Marine? Well, according to a fast Google, a Space Marine is a towering transhuman warrior, his brute strength tempered by inhuman skill. He is armed with the fearsome bolter, a blessed weapon that fires devastating mass reactive shells that explode within the flesh of the target. He is protected by a suit of power armor, shielding him from the fiercest of enemy fire, whilst simultaneously strengthening his blows, allowing him to survive the most hostile of environments. He is the product of intensive training and genetic manipulation, which transforms mortal men selected from the deadliest warrior races in the known galaxy into the most lethal of superhuman killing machines in mankind's arsenal. Whew! That's a lot. These Space Marines sure do sound like the truest idea of good guys in a game where there's nothing of an actual good faction, just varying degrees of not bad or morally grey. From everything else I have gathered, they are trying to do the best that they can, while dealing with extreme political corruption from the politicians back on Terra and every other planet. Surprise, surprise, who would have thought that politicians were corrupt and would try to solidify their own power instead of helping everyone else? Anyway, with all this training and all this equipment, these Space Marines are packaged in what seems like every dual army box since the dawn of 40k. Tyranids versus Space Marines, Necrons versus Space Marines, Death Guard versus Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines versus Space Marines, the list goes on. The one nice thing about Space Marines is that their factions, or chapters, are quite varied in both tactics as well as color schemes. This leads to a lot of customization and personal lore that you can build. For example, I have recently just joined a 40k narrative campaign that is set to kick off tomorrow, if you're watching this on the first day that the video comes out. And I've read a whole manner of different lore and backgrounds for a bunch of different armies by a host of extremely passionate players eager to get their hands on month 1 of the campaign. But enough about that. Let's talk about why this model is the best Space Marine you will ever see. Custom parts. If you're not new to the channel, you know by now that I love me some 3D printing and conversions. Well, this model is not an exception to that channel standard, and so I present to you me not using the stock head, but instead this Space Marine is a cat girl. This head and the rest of my cat girl heads are sculpted by the ever lovely Saint Decent and are available on my mini factory with the username of Saint Decent. Saint Decent, you may know, is the sculptor that has brought Turnip21 to STL format. So go give her a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Links are in the description. She is this Space Marine. By far, hands down, no argument, the best Space Marine a Space Marine can get. All that augmentation of a regular Space Marine with the added 2 bonuses of both being a cat and a girl. Well, I'm gonna leave it here, with the best Marine you'll ever see. Let me know in the comments what you think, but be warned, for every unoriginal girls can't be Space Marines type of comment, I'll build another. Once I have enough, you'll find out their chapter name too. As always, keep your brushes wet and your models painted. Goodbye.